Hello, welcome to Gus McDoll Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through the 16 operations of the German Grand Campaign in Close Combat 3, the Russian Front. Please remember to subscribe, comment, and like the video. And if you want to show your support with a donation, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. It is day 2 of 10 on Operation 2 of 16. Roads to Moscow, Operation Typhoon. You must complete another step on the march to Moscow. Your objective is to breach the Bolshevist fortifications. The men of the 19th Panzer Division are counting on you to lead them to victory. An artillery barrage targeted on 3 points spread along the enemy line will support your attack. Intelligence reveals minefields on the approaches to the enemy's trenches. These mines will limit your routes through the enemy's line. Any armour you deploy should be prepared to encounter heavy anti-tank firepower. Reconnaissance reports suggest enemy infantry and support teams could also be encountered. You'll once again be able to add to or refit the firepower in your arsenal. Again, think of giving preference to winter-ready teams. The only significant terrain feature is the high ground on your north flank. Anti-tank firepower sighted there could pose a threat. The open terrain means long and wide fields of fire, putting a premium on the buildings beyond the trenches. You must crack the enemy's line to reach Moscow. We start the operation with the same forces from the last battle. Von McDoll, Commando Behörden, 1941. Light Infantry Schützen, 1941. Machine Gun Infantry, Maschinengewehr 34, Early War. Medium Tank Panzer 4D. Light Tank Panzer 35T. Anti-tank gun 5cm Pak 35-36. Anti-tank carrier Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251-10 with a 3.7cm pack. And light mortar 5cm Granatwerfer. First things first, let's refit some of these teams. Light mortar. I can refit or upgrade. Medium mortar, 8cm Granatwerfer. Position medium mortars behind obstacles. They lob shells at the enemy. 8cm shells are more powerful than 5cm shells. Use them against roofless targets, including vehicles, or to lay smoke screens. The team uses small arms when threatened. They are equipped with 8cm Granatwerfer, 3 Mauser rifles, and 4 hand grenades. Next, light infantry. Let's refit them to replace casualties. Next, let's build up Kampfgruppe McDoll. I want more armour. My choices include Panzer 3H, Panzer 4D, Panzer 35, Sturmgeschütz, and Sonderkraftfahrzeug 232. Medium assault gun, Sturmgeschütz 40C. Use this turretless anti-tank gun against all but the heaviest enemy tanks. Tough Mark III chassis provides good mobility and sturdy armour. No turret means the Stug must turn to swing its 7.5cm main gun more than 10 degrees. It is equipped with 7.5cm L24 cannon, and 4 Walther P38 pistols for the crew. Technically, the Sturmgeschütz is self-propelled anti-tank artillery. I also want more artillery support assets. My choices are an anti-tank half-track, 2 machine gun half-tracks, a light anti-tank gun, a light infantry gun, light mortar, or heavy machine gun. Light half-track anti-tank, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 250-10 with a 3.7cm Panzerabwehrkanone. Use this light half-track's 3.7cm main gun as mobile artillery for infantry support, reconnaissance, counterattacks, or mobile defence. Half-tracks use speed instead of armour for protection, avoid tanks and anti-tank guns. It is equipped with 3.7cm L46 anti-tank gun, coaxial MG34, and 3 Walther P38 pistols for the crew. And that is Kampfgruppe McDoll. Let's examine the terrain and develop a plan. North is to the top of the map. German forces have now reached the First Fortification Ring, a line of defences protecting the Russian capital, Moscow. The Germans will need to breach these defences to get to Moscow. I've marked 6 areas moving west to east. Number 1. Light woods astride the east-west road, with the charred ruins of Bukharin's house on the eastern edge. The woods offer a concealed approach for infantry and the closest jumping-off point for an attack against the Russian line. The buildings would make a good outpost location. But the short fields of fire mean close-range engagements, which is not good for armour or artillery. Number 2. Open snowy fields in front of the Russian lines, with woods to the west and north. Again, the woods offer a forming-up point. This area offers good fields of fire in both directions, but also a large open area to cross while wading through snow, possibly under fire. Number 3. Minefields in front of the Russian lines. Engineers have assessed there are gaps in the belt of mines, notably at the 2 crossing points, but these gaps are likely covered by observation and fire. Number 4. The Russian lines. A large anti-tank ditch has 2 crossing points. Behind the ditch is a series of 5 bunkers, perfect locations for anti-tank guns, anti-tank rifles, or machine guns. Each of the bunkers can cover the front of its neighbours with interlocking fields of fire. The bunkers are linked by a series of trench lines allowing covered and concealed movement along the line. And there are woods behind the line that might hide anti-tank guns or reinforcements. Number 5. Hill 123, overlooking the northern breach. A tank on this hill could hide behind masking terrain and then pop out to put frontal fire on the northern breach and flanking fire on the southern breach. Number 6. A small hill overlooking the southern breach. Smeliev's house lies at the foot of the hill. Again, a tank on this hill could hide behind masking terrain and then pop out to put frontal fire on the southern breach and flanking fire on the northern breach. Key terrain are each of the 5 bunkers and 2 hills, in other words good locations from which to deliver defensive fire. Each of the breaches is decisive terrain, as possession of a breach allows armour to penetrate the line of fortifications. This leads to 2 obvious avenues of approach: through the woods to the northern breach or over the open ground to the southern breach. I assess the enemy will have armour, anti-tank artillery and infantry. They will try and pin German troops in the open and on the minefield, then defeat the German attack with fire. It is likely the Russians will have firing positions at one or more of the bunkers to blunt frontal assaults, as well as on the hills to the north and south overlooking the crossing points. And possible they will have an infantry outpost in the burnt buildings to spoil any attack from the woods. Finally, there may be reserves in the buildings that can move laterally to reinforce whichever crossing point is under threat. In order to breach the line of fortifications, the Germans will need to prevent the Russians from putting fire on the crossing point. One option is to attack in the north. This will take advantage of the shorter distance from the cover afforded by the woods and ruined buildings. German tanks will proceed along the road with infantry clearing the woods either side. A smoke barrage will cover the assault on the northern crossing point. Tanks will lead the penetration, followed by the infantry. The risk with this approach is that infantry and tanks will be ambushed near the ruined buildings, and tanks will receive fire from 3 locations as they emerge one by one from the forest. Another option is to attack in the south. This will take advantage of the long fields of fire. German armour and artillery will form a support fire line to the rear. Under cover of a high volume of supporting fire and mortar smoke, the infantry will breach the crossing point. Once the crossing point is secure, the armour will move up to penetrate the position and conduct the breakthrough. The key risk with this approach is relying on less than a platoon's worth of infantry to cross a couple of 100 metres of snowy field with little cover or concealment while under fire, then assault enough bunkers to allow the armour to follow through. If the infantry get held up, the whole attack could stall. My basic dilemma is that I want the infantry to take advantage of the short approach through the woods, but I also want the armour and artillery to take advantage of the long fields of fire to suppress Russian defensive positions. So instead, I will combine the first 2 approaches. The armour and anti-tank guns will form a strong fire support line in the south, taking advantage of the long fields of fire. Specifically, armour and artillery will target each of the bunkers with direct fire, with smoke obscuration in front of the bunkers, with any enemy armour or artillery as targets of opportunity. Meanwhile, infantry will advance to reduce enemy defences, taking advantage of the covered approach through the woods. Once the northern crossing point is secure, armour can move up and along the road to join the breakthrough. This course of action is also more consistent with German doctrine, which assigns infantry to the minefield breach with overwatch from the tanks. Breaching obstacles. After the extent of the minefield has been determined, or other possibilities for avoidance of the mines or other obstacles has been reconnoitred, they should be bypassed. Where that is not possible, infantry must take the obstacle and engineers clear and mark a path. In the meantime, the tanks cover the obstacle from covered positions. The Russians have now deployed their most formidable military asset, General Winter. The Kampfgruppe are freezing, but will soon be warming themselves in front of Moscow as it burns. In the meantime, Division has tasked the Kampfgruppe to spearhead the assault on the First Fortification Ring, and has allocated a Sturmgeschütz and another half-track to the attack. But the fearsome-looking bunkers put yet another chill up German spines. I've now moved my troops into position and will execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action and if you have identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. Armour and artillery target the Russian bunkers with direct fire as the German artillery barrage commences. The Panzer 35T is hit and destroyed. The crew bail out. Achtung, Panzer! The Mark 4D is hit. T-34 to the northeast. The Mark 4 and Sturmgeschütz target the T-34. And the anti-tank half-track. Meanwhile, the German artillery barrage continues. The T-34 fires and misses. The T-34 is immobilized. And hit again. And destroyed. Zeltmann in the Panzer 35T is unconscious. The Germans keep up fire on the bunkers. German armour is receiving Russian artillery fire, possibly a mortar. The tanks advance, and the half-track retires behind the woods.
Truppe umgruppiert. Stellung eingenommen.
Achtung, Panzer! The Mark 4D is damaged. A BT-7M behind Smalyev's house. The Mark 4D and Sturmgeschütz return fire. The pack joins in. The Russian tank is damaged and abandoned by the crew. Meanwhile, the Sturmgeschütz is immobilized. The fire is coming from the north. In the woods. The mortar commences a fire mission, and the Mark 4D provides suppressing fire. The crew abandon the Sturmgeschütz. The Russian 45mm anti-tank gun is destroyed. Von McDoll now advances the infantry through the woods. Russian artillery continues to target the German tanks. The Sonderkraftfahrzeug plots a course forward to bring flanking fire on the Russians. Russian troops lie dead and injured in the trench line near the northern breach. The Russian gun crew retreat over open ground back to their front line. And are cut down. German infantry advance cautiously through the woods towards the northern breach. Minor victory. The battle ended because the Russians fled the battlefield. The Germans gained control of the area and will advance. German losses were 1 killed, 3 wounded and 2 tanks destroyed, the Panzer 35T and the Sturmgeschütz. Russian losses were 5 killed, 10 wounded, 1 tank destroyed, the T-34, 1 tank captured, the BT-7M, and 1 gun destroyed, the 45mm anti-tank gun. Let's examine the Kampfgruppe. An assault badge for Oberpanzerschütze Gross Kronbach in the Panzer 4D. That badge was for knocking out the Russian T-34 tank. And the mortar knocked out the Russian 45mm anti-tank gun. No one was credited for the Russian BT-7M tank. The casualties in the Sturmgeschütz were Obergefreiter Habenicht killed, with Oberpanzerschütze Eames and Panzerschütze Koch seriously wounded. And in the Panzer 35T, Obergefreiter Zeltmann was seriously wounded. Otherwise, the Kampfgruppe was okay. Regrettable, but comparatively light casualties for breaching the main Russian defensive line. So, what did we learn? German doctrine for breaching a minefield was for tanks to stay back in an overwatched position, ready to provide supporting fire to the infantry conducting the breach. Why? Because the enemy would be covering the minefield with observation and fire. The tanks could then win the firefight against the enemy, allowing the infantry to breach. And that is what happened here. The main combat was fought at range by the German tanks and artillery against the 2 Russian tanks and anti-tank gun. The Germans had superior firepower and won the firefight, leading the Russians to flee the battlefield as the infantry advanced. My only regret is the loss of Habenicht killed and Eames, Koch and Zeltmann seriously wounded. Tanks can be replaced. People cannot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.